during this time, this is a time of uncertainty for all of us. Some of us may be jobless, some of us may be furloughed, some of us be making career changes, or simply you're a recent college graduate, or you're just wanting to update your resume some during this time because we all have a little bit more free time on our hands. And so we realized that we needed to provide our community with some resources. And so our professional development team come up with a 3-part webinar series, and this is part 1 with Hannah Reyes next to me, and she's going to be talking about building a resume. We have 2 other parts. One is called Your Personal Brand, which will be next week, and the other one is LinkedIn 101, which is 2 weeks from today. And if you want to register for those, check out our website. But I'm going to introduce you guys to our speaker today, who is Hannah Reyes, who's actually one of my close friends. So Hannah Reyes is passionate about helping businesses thrive in today's online and offline marketing environment. With nearly a decade of experience in both online and traditional marketing, she believes that every platform offers distinct advantages. Hannah leverages current marketing trends, helping clients reach the most prospects for the least expense. Since 2012, Hannah has been working with clients nationwide to enhance company profit and branding through marketing consultations, digital campaigns, content creation, and graphic design. Since launching Hannah Reyes Marketing and Design in 2017, her and her marketing team continue to help companies implement strategies that double their leads and turn their marketing dreams into a reality. In addition to running her marketing company, Hannah is the director of marketing at ProHealth, which is a health company with 7 locations spanning along the Panhandle. Hannah is responsible for providing the guidance to ProHealth marketing department by evaluating and developing marketing strategies, planning and coordinating marketing efforts, communicating the marketing plans to those involved, and building awareness and positioning for the company's brands. Her duties include overseeing the entire marketing department, monitoring and evaluating project activities and results, and directing research efforts. Hannah works closely with ProHealth sales department to develop strategies that help ProHealth maximize profits and market share. We invited Hannah to lead the PYP webinar on resume building, not only because of her success in building brands and getting clients the outcome they expect, but also due to her experience on both sides of the interview process, and being the interviewer and the interviewee. Sorry, got a little stutter on that. Today, she hopes to leave you with tangible advice that will launch you into the crafting your perfect resume to land your dream job. So everyone, welcome to our webinar, and I'm glad to turn this over to Hannah Reyes as she teaches you how to build that perfect resume.
Thank you, Bradley. That was quite a mouthful. I need to shorten that up a little bit, but I appreciate that introduction. You guys, welcome. It's the PYP branding series. It's finally here. If you guys have been hearing about the buzz, I feel like this has been a little bit quiet for a while, and then all of a sudden, it just got released, and it's just been so exciting building up to it, and I'm so excited to start it off. So I am going to share my screen with you guys. I sent a PDF, so you should have got that in your final email, and that is something you can follow along with during this presentation, or you can just follow along with the screen. So let me share my screen with you guys. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Now we're all situated. Okay, well, I'm excited to sit with you guys today, and for the next 45 minutes, I'm going to be sharing some guidelines that really work. And writing a resume can be so frustrating. It can be so time consuming, but I'm going to share with you guys 5 tips that are going to really help launch you into that dream job. And also, I'm going to open up the floor for questions at the end. So feel free to grab your iPhone into the notes section, take some notes as you go, because if you're not creating a resume right now, maybe you will be soon, and that's probably why you're on here today. So yeah, and I'm gonna, during this presentation, I really wanna hear from you guys. So feel free to send in your comments. I'm probably going to address them towards the end, but if you're the type of person like me, you're a little scatterbrained, you're afraid you might forget it, just shoot it in the comment box and we'll address it at the end. If not, jot it down on some paper, whatever you want. So my first question for you guys is, what are you hoping to get out of this webinar? I love little Buddy the Elf. Seriously, if you were early to this login, you heard me talking to Bradley. I showed this little meme to my husband. He was like, I'm pretty sure you like writing your resume. I'm like, no, not even me. So resume writing can be really confusing, really frustrating, a little bit overwhelming because you're trying to combine a bunch of information in a small area and please someone you've never met. So today you're gonna feel a little bit of ease, and I'm hoping that these 5 topics will really help. Let's see, okay. So today we're gonna be talking about where to start, that's number 1, what to include, format and design, digital tips and tricks, and then last but not least, catch their attention. So these next 45 minutes or so will be so important to you because whether you're looking to get a job now or you don't know if you're gonna stay where you're at forever, then it's a good idea to have a resume that's up to date. So the notes that you take today, I encourage you, store them on your computer, store them in a special place on maybe your Drive folder, in the cloud, whatever, so that you can access them later. I really want you guys to be thinking specifically as you go about this. I want you to specifically be thinking about your industry. Be asking yourself specific questions about how this can apply to my resume, and then jot down some notes. It's going to really help you to not forget along the way. And you know, maybe there's uncertainty about length. Maybe you don't know the easiest way to format. Maybe you don't even know the right verbiage. Today is going to be a breath of fresh air and you're going to feel a lot better about it, I promise. You're investing in your future today, and my job is to take the guesswork out of it for you. So I'm going to leave you with some practical tips, and I know that it can be daunting venturing into the interview world of resumes and cover letters and all that, but seriously, today we'll take some pressure off of you. So good job logging in today. I am so passionate about my day-to-day work, which, like Bradley said, is building brands and getting clients the outcome they expect. And so today, that's what I really want to do with you. I want to help mold your personal brand, and starting with your resume so that you can get that interview that you hope for. Because a lot of times we don't even get to the interview process because there's hangups on our resume. So I've been on both sides, like he said, of the interview process, and I just am excited because you guys are going to leave with some tangible advice, and it's going to launch you into crafting your very best resume. So without further ado, we're back to Buddy the Elf. And if you want to, I don't actually know how to see the comments as I go, but if you'd like, you can go ahead and drop some things in the comments. Oh, there you go. Drop some things in the comments of what you're hoping to get out of this webinar. Let's see. Okay, thank you, Meg, for sharing that handout. So if you need the handout, you can get it there. Sarah's excited to learn more resume tips and tricks. Girl, you in the right spot. Okay, let's see. Okay. And you guys let me know if you can see my chat box or anything like that. I know I'm sharing my screen, so if it's in the way, tell me. Rachel, I'm personally trying to figure out how to explain my different roles at the same organization in an organized way. That is tricky, Rachel, but hopefully this will help. And honestly, I have a hard time with that too. And a lot of times it's just nice to hear that simple is okay. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Okay, so now I'm gonna really need some interaction. We're gonna go into a poll. And let's see. This poll says, according to a survey of 2,200 hiring managers, 1 in 6 respondents said they spend blank amount of time reviewing resumes. A, 30 seconds or less. B, around 3 minutes. C, 5 to 7 minutes. Or D, 10 minutes or less. Wow, we're seeing a lot of A's. I'll give you guys just a little bit longer. I see a B in there. I see another B. Seems like everyone realizes everyone's thinking that it's a pretty short amount of time. Anybody, any C's in there? Any D's? You guys, let's see. Oh, we have a C in there, 5 to 7 minutes. The answer is A, 30 seconds or less. You guys, your resume needs to make a good impression and fast. So I can tell you, for one, whenever I place an ad on Indeed, literally within a day, I get about 60 responses. And so I have to weed through 60 in one day. And if I miss that day and decide not to check the responses, there's probably going to be 120 the next day. Pensacola and the area around, I know we have a few people that are joining us further away from this little area in the Panhandle, but Pensacola is growing rapidly. And if you've been around here for some time, you've noticed that. So even in these bigger cities and smaller cities, the amount of people that you are fighting against with your resume and the amount of time that you have to spend is so minimal. So it's really important. So we'll dive right into our very first point, where to start. So before you begin, you're going to want to pick a word processor. And if Microsoft Word isn't in your budget or you're just not using it, I highly suggest Google Docs. I'm sure a lot of you guys know about it, but they have really great templates and you can store it all on there. And all you need is a Gmail account to get started. The framework of your resume can sometimes be like the hardest part. So more isn't always better. So you're going to aim for conciseness over length. So I know that somebody in the chat had just said, like, it's so hard because you have, different jobs and different experience and how to like compile it. Really allowing yourself to just trust like the short words that you have and know that when you nail that interview, when you get into that interview, you're going to have the opportunity to explain more. So just using impressive short sentences, bullet points for each job, brief sentences, action and accomplishment oriented descriptions, and plenty of white space. So you can see this little meme has, oh, your resume is 14 pages long. You must be so qualified. I know that it's so painful to hear, but you guys, employers are looking for a synopsis of your credentials. So not everything that you've done in your career. So oftentimes that 1-page resume is enough. If you have a ton of experience, then you can go longer than that. But from personal experience, as well as I spoke to a few people that I work with that are involved in the hiring process, a few CEOs, and they said 1 page is where it is. So if you can get it down to 1 page, guys, in general, shorter is better. And with a few bullet points and all these different, you can screenshot this slide if you need. We're also going to be sending it to you guys, but try to follow these 4 rules when creating it. Yeah, okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, guys, so what do we include? This is point number 2, what to include. You have such a short time frame to get all this content across, and it's important to really highlight your skills. But there's some basics. There's some things that need to be included. And I know a lot of you guys know this, but this is the bare bones. If you have a resume that doesn't include these things, you need to rework it. Now, my next slide will really go into some additional things that you guys can include, but these are your must-haves. You have to have a name in a field. So if you're applying for a tech specialist, you need to put that as your title. So if you're applying to be a marketing manager, and the job description says marketing manager, but your name at the top of your resume says Hannah Reyes, marketing specialist, you may not get looked over, like you may get looked over a lot quicker because you haven't specified the exact job that they're looking for. So they may think, oh, maybe she's underqualified, but really you're just like, no, I can do anything in marketing. I just put specialist because I want to be flexible. So really trying to match that up is going to be so helpful with that 30-second window that you have with a lot of hiring managers. Then you're going to have your about section. Guys, this is, there's a lot of different names for it: objective, profile, summary. A lot of times this can look very similar to your LinkedIn about. It's going to be maybe 1 to 2 sentences long, and it's just going to tell them a little bit about yourself in like a passionate, invoking way. And then you have education. That's a good place that you can list your training too. You're going to have experience, which is your job history. Keep that brief. Refer to the bullet points on that last slide. And then skills. You're going to match up your skills a little bit with the job description. So if you're super organized and you've always put that as number 1, but their number 1 is detail oriented, wouldn't it make sense if you're detail oriented to put detail oriented first? I mean, you don't want it to be copy pasted the exact same, but you do want some of your skills to transfer. So it's really important to look into that job description and make sure your resume reflects what they're looking for, because they've given you the answers to the test. You just need to write them on your resume. Contact information, that's your email, that's your phone number, and that's your LinkedIn link if you want to put that there. I suggest it. Okay, guys, I wanted to talk to you guys about some optional things you can put on there too. You can put references, you can put awards, you can put a link to your online portfolio if that applies to you, and you can put headshots. Headshots are actually coming into resume trends now. They used to not be, but I think it's because of the way of social media. People associate a name with a face, and they like doing that because it's normal to them. So if you feel comfortable putting your headshot, I would suggest it. I can remember in personal experience hiring a girl that had her headshot on her resume, and it wasn't anything other than I felt like I could connect to that person a little bit more. So I set her up for an interview, and she just happened to be the one for the job. Her resume was really clean and awesome, and she had everything I needed, but it was just a nice personal touch to know who you're expecting, and it kind of stops you in your tracks. So that's an option. Okay, I want to talk to you guys about some transferable skills. So what are transferable skills? Well, I'm glad you asked. Transferable skills are general skills that can be transferred from one job to another. So one of my favorite examples of this is actually Brenda Stevens' story. Brenda Stevens is a dental assisting program director and also the instructor at Emily Griffin Technical Skill College. And she says, many moons ago, I used to do hair, and I didn't realize that there are a lot of similarities between doing hair and being a dental assistant. You're mixing a lot of materials together, and you're working in somebody else's personal space. Just because a person's past job experience doesn't hold the same title as the position that they're hoping to get, doesn't mean they didn't have the skills to get that position or be successful in that role. So that's what we're talking about with transferable skills. Rachel, that's a good question. So Rachel commented and said, would this be in their cover letter or within the resume? So this is just an example of what she was talking about, but she mentioned it in her skills section. So I'm sure that in her resume, she's kind of explaining it here. So she didn't write this in her cover letter, but this would actually be a good thing to include in a cover letter. But more so in her skills section, she says, like, I have the skills of working, or maybe the experience of working in someone else's personal space. I have a lot of mixology skills when it comes to interacting with people, and she's like probably shortened those. I would suggest that she would shorten what I've just said and use some power verbs in there, and yeah, but really transferring those skills. So instead of saying like, oh, I don't really have the skills of that dental assistant, No, you have some of those skills. So really figuring out what are your transferable skills and how can I put those shortly and impactfully in my skills section. And then you guys probably just heard me talking about power verbs. So that's what the power verbs, if you heard me say that, power verbs are some of my favorite things, especially being in marketing. But you can see little Pooh Bear, right? So Pooh Bear says, yeah, no problem, Rachel. I just saw your other comment. So the power verbs, scatterbrain, sorry. So Winnie the Pooh says, I worked at the drive-thru at McDonald's. And then more sophisticated Winnie the Pooh says, I was an associate at a multinational firm in the service industry with a revenue of over 20 billion, served as a liaison to the automotive industry. So that's a stretch, Winnie, but I like how he approached that and he used some power verbs there. You guys, you can make any experience sound impressive by using your power verbs to start your sentence. So where do you use these ones, you ask? Well, you describe your experiences. So for example, instead of saying that you were in charge of a project, so this is in your experience section, your job history section. So instead of saying you were in charge of a project, you say, I executed a project. Doesn't that sound a little better? So here are just some of my favorite power verbs that I think can take you from like to wow. And again, you can screenshot these, jot these down, or this presentation will be sent to you via email, I believe, too. So that's executed, headed, collaborated, owned, engineered, launched, spearheaded, and capitalized. And really, the list goes on. So we have so far talked about where to start. We've talked about what to include. And now we're going to talk about the format and the design. So a lot of times this can be something that trips people up. This can be the reasons why they feel like their resumes are never getting looked at, or I never can get to the interview. If they would just interview me, then I could convince them to hire me, but they never do. You guys, oftentimes it's your resume. It's not easy to read. So this is possibly one of the most important things you can do to your resume is make it easy to read. Making it easy to read, really, like, I want you to imagine somebody scrolling on their phone, reading your resume on their smartphone. Is it easy to follow? Is it easy to understand? Are the section headers clear? Is everything lined up perfectly? Now, it might seem a little OCD, but guys, if we're working in a 30-second window, we may have to trigger those OCD firing opinions in us and really like go for it, because this is a short amount of time and it really, really matters. So even if it doesn't matter to you, it may matter to the hiring manager. And that's something to keep in mind. So I also recommend really, like, sometimes we think it's easy to read. We created it. It's kind of like when you write an article, you think it's great, and then somebody else reads it and you're like, oh, didn't see all those typos. Well, give it to a friend. Like, give it to a friend. They don't have to be the smartest person you know, but maybe give it to a few different friends and ask them and see if they digest the information easily, or if they're like, that's kind of confusing. I don't understand that part of your resume. That doesn't make sense. And your resume is just like a quick little snippet of how well you could do a job. So in addition to your past experience, your ability to create a good looking one-pager, about yourself could be a reflection of how well you can execute a job. So are you able to send a professional email? I don't know, because you have so many different errors in your resume. So it can really show that you can email someone important, or you could create a presentation. I know it sounds like we're going into the nitty-gritty, but it kind of is the nitty-gritty. So another thing you're going to want to do when thinking about your format and your design, you're going to want to be consistent throughout the entire resume. Even if you're talking about your current job, you should still make the entire resume as fluid and consistent as possible. So check out these 3 things to see if they're consistent on your resume. I wrote them here on this slide. is everything in the same tense? So I would literally ask yourself this every time you finalize your resume. Is everything in the same tense? At the end of every sentence, do I have the same thing? Like, is there a period at the end or is there not a period? And are your bullets or your headers similar throughout your resume? So oftentimes I'll see this and I'm like, man, that's so hard to read because we have a bolded header here that says experience and then a not bolded similar font as the content that says skills. And now I'm like really looking at the experience and I haven't even looked at the skills. So consistency will really help with that. And I really can't stress consistency enough. I talked to someone, this is such an interesting story to me, but I swear it's true. So I talked to someone about this aspect. I'm like, should I include the consistency? Should I really harp on it? And she was like, yes. I have thrown out, and this is a CEO of a company in Dallas. She said, I have thrown out a resume immediately if there are periods at the end of some bullet points and none at the end of others. Isn't that crazy? Like, seriously crazy. But I mean, she's the CEO and she has a communications background, even though she works for a technical software company. So you just never know. Like, you could not be applying to something like, I don't know, public relations, and it's still very important that you have those things. Okay, my last thing for design and format is Canva. So drop in the comments if you've ever heard of Canva. Canva is a really popular platform right now. It's free. There are paid options, but the reason why I want to tell you guys about Canva, Jackie D said, love Canva. Bella said, Canva's awesome. Yes, love it. See? Okay, Pensacola Young Professional uses Canva. You guys, it's a free resource that everyone should have. It is so easy. And the reason why I'm telling you guys to download it is not so that you can become a graphic designer. It's a design platform. And it's just a website. So Canva is my BFF. It's free. Yes, see, okay. So there's a few people that are in love with it. And I know for a fact some of those people are not graphic designers. So it's definitely easy for anybody to use. The reason that I'm harping on it, this is not an ad, I do not have an affiliate link, is because look at these resumes, guys. I did not edit these resumes at all. And you can see everything that I've mentioned about clean lines, white space, similar headings. It takes the guesswork out of it. I want this to be easier for you. Sitting down to write your resume can be a headache. So make it easier. Work smarter, not harder, and download some Canva. So Bradley said his resume is a Canva resume. So, and they have many options. So don't be concerned that your resume is going to look like a bunch of other people's. Honestly, like, you can change the colors, you can change the font, and it's all very easy. So you can see right here, we have two separate ones. You can see Jamie's includes a headshot. See, it looks very professional. It's not like a dating app. I feel like sometimes people are like, why would I ever include a headshot on my resume? Honestly, it's just the times. Makes it easier. Here's a few other ones. But yeah, there's all kinds of different ones. Like, you can see, this is the title I was talking about. You can see it on Olivia's. It says IT project manager. And then on Chad's, which is kind of hiding behind Olivia's, software engineer. So he's applying for a software engineer job. And she's applying for an IT project manager job. I know that seems like a small thing, but it really can make an impact to just tell that hiring manager, like, I'm here for the position that's giving you a headache because you don't have it filled. Okay. Now we're diving right into our last and final. Oh, wait, no. This isn't our last and final. Sorry, got confused there for a second. Digital tips and tricks. Yeah, okay, this is point number 4. Point number 4 of 5. So we have 5 total. This is, I'm kind of excited about. These are just a few tips that will make this less of a headache. I told you guys, you're investing in your future. This is gonna make this easier. It's not gonna be such a headache. So some things I really wanna tell you guys. Watch out for typos. I feel like we kind of stressed that, but your resume is just a snippet, one pager, how you do your job. So again, Your future employer wants to know that you're not making typos. If you're a bad speller or grammar is difficult for you, it's not a strong suit, that's okay. That's seriously okay. I started using a tool called Grammarly, and it is spelled just like grammar is on your slide, but it has an LY after it. It's something that can scan all your documents. It can scan multiple different things that you need. It's different than, it was a game changer for me, because I think I'm pretty good at grammar, but it would catch it. You can download it to where it works on your Word. It works on different things as you're compiling the information. So it doesn't just check your spelling. It actually catches all your spelling and your grammar mistakes in the moment. So as opposed to spell check, which normally just does the most obvious spellings. So I really recommend Grammarly. Again, that's grammar with an LY at the end.com. Check it out. And again, it's another great free resource for you. Another thing is on brand social media. So you really want to ensure that all of your social media is on brand. And what do I mean by that? Specifically LinkedIn. It's a network that Brandy Gomez will be talking about in the third webinar of this series. And I really suggest that you tune into that one. That's going to be in 2 weeks. But it should be used for professional purposes. This isn't your TikTok. This isn't your Instagram. And it should always remain on brand. So on LinkedIn, you have the opportunity to research different career interests and find people that are in your job field that have like your dream job in your dream industry. You can see what they have on their profile, and then you can start to add those things to yours if you have those different skills. And the skill that directly correlates to the people's career goals really should be prominently displayed in your skills and endorsement section on your LinkedIn, but also in your headline section, so that employers, as they look, are able to locate you by the keywords. So a marketing thing that we do is, that all marketers do, is they search keywords, right? But keywords that basically means like, I'm gonna write a blog that's about pink bikinis. I don't know, because pink bikinis are really a big deal right now. Well, before I do that, I'm going to check all my keywords to make sure that pink bikinis are actually something that's getting searched a lot. And if it's not, then I'm not going to write my article about it. So similarly, this is going into different areas of life. This is going into our social media platforms, and a lot of times we don't realize it. So help recruiters find you a little bit easier, or help those hiring managers that saw your resume and now are looking at you on LinkedIn see those keywords on your profile. And it'll really impress them and give you that a little bit of a step of a foot in the door. Okay, well, yeah. So I know that Brandy's gonna really dive in more on this topic of LinkedIn. I'm really excited for you guys to hear more about that. But if you're looking for a job, guys, you not only need to have a one-pager resume, you gotta have a LinkedIn that has some of those aspects on there. So, and then lastly, I just wanted to tell you guys too, another tip, always send your resume as a PDF. Oftentimes, I've seen it time and time again, you'll send it, if you're not giving a hard copy, okay? Hard copies, obviously, it's best, but in today's world, it's just not always practical. So if you're sending it, send it as a PDF. A lot of times I'll see people send a resume in, and they will send it via Word. And when I open it on my computer, I'm very bummed because it is not the same font that they probably expected it to be. Because maybe they have an Apple and maybe I don't, or whatever. We have different softwares, different computers, whatever it may be. Their font that they thought was gonna look nice and clean could totally change into like a size 72, maybe not 72, but a big old font that takes over the whole page and just isn't good. So really saving it as a PDF is the one way that you can really ensure that it's going to print well, as well as digitally send well. Now, JPEG, sometimes people want to save it as a JPEG. That's also a flat document that's not going to be changed. So you can still get your message across, but oftentimes JPEGs will transfer into smaller files. And then when you pull it up, since it is a picture, a JPEG is a picture, your JPEG will be blurry. And a blurry resume is not the impression that you want to make. So as simple as it is, share it as a PDF. I would really encourage you to make sure that when you're sharing it as a PDF, you have not converted it to only a PDF. You still want to have your editable document so that you can go in and change it accordingly. But have that PDF sent to them flat, crisp, and clean. And again, Canva is really going to help you with that because you can export it as a PDF, as well as any of the Google Suite and your word processing, obviously. Okay. So far we have talked about where to start. We've talked about different places that you can create your resume. We talked about what to include, what should be on there, what shouldn't be on there. We've talked about transferable skills. We've talked about our third point, which was the format and design. And then we've talked about these digital tips and tricks. Our last and final point is going to lead us straight into a poll. So if you guys can drop in the comments, we have a true or false. Should you change your resume for each job you apply for? True or false? Okay, I'm seeing a lot of truths, but even if your resume is really up to date and really good, do you still need to change it? Nope, I see a false, just change the cover letter, okay. I'll wait just a little bit longer, see if anybody else wants to share. Okay, guys. It is true. So I see, like, Bella, your comment says false, and that's a good point. Just change the cover letter. The reason why I recommend changing your resume too is because of the points that I mentioned at the beginning, talking about what if they have a dire need for a skill that you have, but you haven't mentioned it in your resume at all because you mentioned other skills that you thought were better. But their job description says that they're really looking for somebody that's good in Adobe InDesign. But you didn't think that was important because you really are good at another software or whatever it may be, and that may be more impressive. So what you want to do is you want to look at that job description and you want to reflect it on your resume that you, like I said earlier, you have the answers to the test in that job description. You just have to put them into your resume. Now, I do not suggest copy paste your skills section from their thing, but be practical with it. If that's like some really big ones they're looking for and you have those, put them on there because that's what they're looking for. So yeah, so once you've created that first one, you refresh your old one, you can just tweak it up as you go. Like, don't reinvent the wheel, but just tweak some of those things up when you're applying for that open position, especially if you're applying for different job fields. So you want to make sure that you customize that experience to your job, even if you're applying to the same types of jobs, but submitting an online resume. Really, you're going to want to focus on those keywords from each job description, add them to your resume. So I really feel like you guys will see a big difference with that. And also the title. Do you guys remember whenever we were talking about what to include? I said name and title. So your title, that's where you'd want to change that. If you're applying for, it could be as simple as two things that are very similar. I easily think of marketing examples, but a marketing assistant and a marketing specialist. Those are similar positions. But if they're looking for a marketing assistant, you may want to put that on there rather than, even though your resume says marketing specialist, they may have certain reasons why they picked that position. And yeah, okay. Well, this leads us to another point. So we're catching their attention. This is our final point. So again, we've talked about what, where to start. I have a little cheat sheet over there. Where to start, what to include, the design and the format, the digital tips and tricks, and then final point, catch their attention. So change your resume for it. Yes. Right, Rachel, that's a good point. So let's see, catch their attention. You guys, I'm excited to talk to you guys about what we're diving into here. One of the main things that is a huge game changer is when you use numbers anytime it's possible. So you got to find a way to quantify your past successes. It's crucial. It's crucial. If you were not, even if you're not in a job like sales, you know, that's solely focused on the numbers, you still have worked on a team and worked on projects with numbers of people or numbers of teams, and you can add up these numbers to show everything that you've achieved. And it really helps whoever's looking at your resume, because then they can visualize your success and the success that you've done in the past. So I don't want you guys to overcomplicate it. I feel like when we bring numbers into it, a lot of times it's like, oh gosh, a number. Now I have to do math. But let's just, here's some examples really to get your juices flowing. So how many team members did you work with? Showing you can work on a team is really great, as we know. So try saying, I collaborated with X number of people on X number of projects. Did you work cross-functionally with any other teams or people besides your direct managers? Well, if so, list them out. Worked cross-functionally with X teams in order to ... What were some of your goals? Did you complete a certain number of tasks or projects? Include those too. So really figuring that out is going to be a very impressive way to flatter them on your resume. So our last but not least point. So this goes into our last thing in catching their attention. This isn't something that you need to do during your resume, but it's something that I highly recommend doing right after you've applied for your job. So now you've probably heard of thank you notes, thank you letters after you do an interview. I think that's a great practice. Send your hiring manager a thank you note or a thank you email. But after applying, you're gonna find the recruiter. Stay with me because I know this sounds weird. You're gonna find the recruiter or someone that works in the company. You're gonna find them on LinkedIn. I know, this sounds creepy. But after applying, you're gonna find that recruiter and then you're gonna write them a message. And they're oftentimes gonna refer you directly. So maybe you can't find the recruiter, but you can find someone that works in the company. A lot of times it's who you know, and sometimes we don't know people. A lot of us are young professionals and we haven't gotten to meet everyone in Pensacola yet. Maybe we don't know someone who works at Studer. Maybe we want to get a job there, but what are we gonna do? But you can find that out on LinkedIn. So write them a message, and oftentimes they're gonna refer you directly. So if you were to find somebody at ProHealth, the company that I work for, if you were to find somebody at ProHealth and they said, hey, I wanted to reach out because I'm passionate in the position about this role. I'm excited to learn more. I just applied for it. I'm a qualified candidate. I was wondering if you or maybe a colleague were free to chat about next steps. I know that if you were to send that to anybody in our company that has a LinkedIn, they would definitely send it to the right person. And honestly, I'm timid to say this, but I've seen it work every time. So, and again, like, what do you say? I have it right here for you on this slide. This is a great example of something to say. And it might be a little bit out of your comfort zone, but after you applied for the job, I would seriously just advise you to take at least 5 people who work in the company and send them a little note or an email. I mean, if you have access to email for sure, but a little note on LinkedIn, and you know, odds are this person is going to end up sending you a message back and referring you or passing you along to the right person. So it's worth it. It definitely is worth it. So today we've talked about where to start, what to include, design and formatting, digital tips and tricks, and then ways to catch their attention. So I really want you guys to be thinking of ways that you can put these different little tidbits into your resume to tweak it, to make it better. Maybe take some of those software recommendations, some of those free resources, and utilize them, guys, and send it off to a friend. Let them review it. Give it to an old colleague or even an old teacher. Professors never mind doing that. And some of them do. I say never, but some of them will mind. But there are some that won't. And honestly, I'm on LinkedIn, Hannah H. Reyes, and you guys can connect with me and I'd be happy to look over your resume. I'm also going to be sharing other tips on my LinkedIn, so feel free to connect about anything like that. But I hope that these tips were really helpful for you. I wanted to leave you guys with this quote. Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. And that's Thomas Edison. So just remember, the interview process is really hard. Like Bradley introduced us today with just the reality of this is a difficult time. Maybe you weren't planning to be looking for a job right now and you find yourself doing that, or maybe your employers weren't who you thought they were when the ish hit the fan. So I would say don't give up. You're in this position for a reason right now, and just try one more time. Brush up that resume. You have what it takes, and know that you have resources like PYP, people who are willing to look at your resume, and you're going to be able to nail that dream job. I just know it. So congratulations. Good job in investing in your future today, guys. I'm so excited about the next few webinars that we have. I wanted to open up the floor for some questions. There's my LinkedIn if you want to connect with me. But if anyone has any specific questions about your specific industry or just questions that popped into your head along the way, I'll kind of be silent for a minute so you can think about that and type them out.
I do want to mention, first of all, thank you, Hannah, for all that great information. I just want to mention, you mentioned the headshot thing. Having your headshot on your resume. I actually want to mention, I did that years ago for a freelance position. And when I went in for the interview, I put my little headshot in the little corner with the Canva. And when I went in for the interview, they told me, we picked you for an interview just because of your headshot being on the resume. And so I was like,
amazing. It seems
that really worked.
It's because you're so beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you. But no,
it's true. It really just connects the interviewer with you.
Well, they told me no one's really doing that, and that was kind of a risk you took. And we're like, we like that little risk, so we want to talk to you more. So that worked for me, and that was 3 or 4 years ago for a freelance position.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it really is. It's kind of used to be something that was risky, and now it's more common, and it makes sense. I mean, we're a visual society, so I mean, I don't want to talk to a stranger, but maybe if I see their face, maybe I'd want to interview them. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any questions, so I guess I'll pass it right on over to Bradley. Thank you guys so much for letting me talk to you about this, and I'm so excited to learn more about personal branding next week, and then the next week LinkedIn. Thanks, guys.